You ready for me to start and let people in?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect.
You say that now.
All right, I'm letting everybody in.
Perfect.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to see so many folks here. We are going to get started in just a moment. I'm going to have these fantastic folks from Petal introduce themselves. Thank you for joining us for this graphic design in Canva training. My name is Danny. I think I know most of you, but not all of you. I'm co-executive director of PowerShift Network, and I am so grateful to these kind humans from Petal for joining us for this training today. I'm going to hand you the mic and let you take it from here. Thanks, team.
Great. Thanks, Danny. Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Naglieri. I am the Chief of Staff at Petal. And before I go further any forward, I just want to double check that everybody could hear me okay. All right. That's a good sign. So first off, thank you again, Danny. We're all really excited to be here and talk about Canva, but more broadly, branding and design. When we first, I do have to note that when we first, our co-founder reached out to Melissa, Lily, and I, who I'll introduce more formally in a moment. When she first reached out to us and told us about the PowerShift network, we were immediately intrigued and interested, and we had a call like the next day, and basically we were like, we need to get involved with this group. So we are very excited about this opportunity to spend time with you. We don't take the fact that all of you on December 9th, feels like it's been a lot longer, but on December 9th in 2020, that you all have decided to spend an hour with us. We don't take that lightly. We're going to really try to make this presentation as actionable and useful for all of you. So we're very excited to be here. Thank you again to Danny and Nadia and the team at PowerShift. Yeah, we couldn't be more excited. The work that you all are involved in is perhaps the most important work there is out there. So we're hoping that this will be the first step for us as individuals and on behalf of Petal to just be more involved with the network and be resources for all of you. So our hope is to come out of today with new connections and to give you all the opportunity to have people in different positions, and you have three more people who you should consider friends to the network and would be willing to help in any capacity that would make sense. So without further ado, I do want to just go through a little bit of housekeeping before we move on. And Lily, if you can push through to the next slide. First off, we want this really to be interactive. I know every presentation says that, but our goal is for you to stay on for the duration of the period, but also really to ask your questions. So as I'm going to note in a second, our team, we have 3 people from the founding team at Petal here. All of us have played lead roles in creating the branding for this startup organization. And even though we do different things and have different specialties, we're all part of building a brand. And of the 3 of us, I am the most novice and the only one who actually needs the session that we're going to be presenting on today. So once we're through the housekeeping, the real good stuff will come. So bear with me for a few more moments. But Lily and Melissa really are the standouts when it comes to Canva. So just to give you a quick rundown of where we're going to go, we're going to talk a little bit more about our background and why we feel so compelled to talk about this topic and are really excited, drawing on our experiences over the last 9 months and in our careers. We're going to talk a little bit about building a brand from scratch. Melissa has over 2 decades of marketing experience. You name it, she's done it. And I think a really important point before we dive into Canva is really the why. Like, beyond like images that look nice and look cool, look fresh, it's really important to know the why. So Melissa's going to give a little bit of that context. And then we have a number of different like hands-on demos we're going to work through at the end of the session. We're all going to give you some work going to have some assignments and actually dig into Canva and work together using some of the tips that we're going to show to really produce some content that will hopefully help give a signal boost to the PowerShift network. So more to come on that. But again, we encourage you to use the chat and don't hesitate to ask questions. We'll have dedicated periods where we take questions, but if you get something in the moment, speak up. There's no question too small. I will be the first person to ask novice questions because again, I will be following along and sort of approaching this as someone who is attending the webinar in addition to helping present. Yeah, and without further ado, let's move this ahead. Lily, so who are we? We're part of the founding team at Petal. Petal is a new consumer goods startup that is working to bring the first freezer for household waste into the world. And yes, that was what it sounded like. And no, none of us ever expected to be involved in a project quite as this. We started together working early in the spring. None of us have met each other in person before, but we all joined together and really had this unique opportunity to build a brand from the ground up. In a few moments, Melissa will show you sort of what we walked into at the onset of this project and sort of some of the outputs from our work together over the last 8+ months. So we're really excited. We added some superlatives about who we are in the group, but again, like I said, I'm more of the communications operations person, the glue, if you will, and Lily and Melissa are going to be the experts when it comes to Canva. And they got some really great tips, for you all as we're moving ahead. Lily, if you can advance the next slide, please. So we have a very brief background on who we are, more brief than I actually anticipated, but I want to move this along. So we want to know a little bit about you all. So we have 4 questions that we want you to answer in the chat. So don't answer yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put an example of how you should answer with my real answers, and then we're going to toggle through the questions. But basically, we want to get a feel for who you are, what your level of experience is, and like what you want to get out of this. And our goal will really to be do a little real-time pivot and make sure as we're working on the content, we can steer it toward your specific interests. So we're hoping that'll just help us provide more of these specific insights you're looking for. So before you answer, and Zachary, I appreciate the speediness there. I'm going to drop my answer in. So, all right. So Lily, if you can toggle through the questions. I put my answer. So basically, we're looking for everyone to basically answer 1 through 4. So the first question is, rate your familiarity with Canva 1 through 5. Number 2 is what you're looking to get out of it in a few words or a sentence. How you anticipate using Canva. Canva is very powerful. We actually created the PowerPoint presentation in Canva for today's session. And 4 is like, what are you going to do when the world gets back to whatever the next normal looks like? And I volunteered that I'm going to pay a visit to my barber, who I missed dearly for the last 9 months. So go ahead when you have a chance, if you can try to put your answers 1 through 4, and we'll give you a few moments to weigh in. All right, so it looks like we have a pretty good mix. I see our co-founder, Christy, is lurking in the audience. So thanks for joining us. Hi, Christy. So if you guys have any other specifics, feel free. We'll continue to monitor the chat throughout. Again, don't wait for prompts. Like when you see something, and as Lily's and Melissa are talking about both branding and the actual like logistics getting in Canva, we're gonna move a little quick at times. You have a question, put it in there. We'll be keeping our eyes on it and we'll make sure we circle back to it. So please continue to put your thoughts in there. I'll be keeping an eye on that as well as the rest of the team. So please continue to answer. We particularly want to know what you're going to do once we can get out and into the world again. I'm with Zach as well. Live music is, really, one of those things that is really tricky. Go to an island for vacation. I think Alonzo actually has got the winning answer right now. All right, so just to keep things moving ahead, I want to move over to the next slide, Lily, and we can start getting into the meat of the presentation. Cool. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my friends and colleague, Melissa, who's, like I said, she draws upon 20 plus years of experience in the marketing world. And she's going to provide some really interesting context for today's discussion, because again, Canva is a helpful tool, but if you're not thinking about how you want to use it intentionally, it's really going to be limited into what you're looking to accomplish. So Melissa, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. And hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. Thanks to everybody for asking us to do this today. And we're going to dive right in. So when we were pulling together this presentation, we were thinking that we probably had a variety of experience and background on what a brand is. So we thought it would be helpful to give a very high level 101 on the brand. There's a lot more to dive into and learn here. So I'm just going to kind of scratch the surface, but when it comes to building brands for social change, I think it's really exciting, everything that's happening kind of out there in the market today. So a lot of people, when you hear branding, they really think of design. Like, what is your logo? What are your colors? What are your fonts? But branding is so much more than that. It's really what people think about you when they hear your company, your organization, even kind of an individual. A lot of people talk about personal brands these days. But so a brand really extends so much beyond the design part of things. And it's this intentional set of actions that you take in order to consistently communicate with your audience over time. So consistency is really key there, but it's also the message that you want people to hear and feel. So really kind of why does that matter now and today, and why should we care about that when really we just want to use Canva to kind of create some stuff? I think what's really interesting that's happened in the world of branding is Anthony mentioned my 2 decades, which usually I tell him not to lead with. But yes, branding and marketing has changed significantly in that time. In the past, it was branding and marketing was really this top down. Corporations said, here's what you should think about me. Here's how you should think about us. And here's how you should feel. And it's really shifted largely due to social media and kind of the vehicles of communication that we have now. It's shifted from this top-down corporate approach to this more grassroots. So now we're seeing social movements embracing these fundamentals of marketing and branding and really using it as a force for pushing forward movements. It's branding made by the people for the people. And it's really this democratization of messaging and really pushing those movements that can change so much more people, organizations, everything. It just has so much more kind of broad ability to reach more people now. And I think what's also kind of interesting about branding that's changing is symbols, hashtags, logos are now being used not to define products, but really movements and beliefs. So I'm sure you can think of a lot of hashtags in the last 4 or 5 years that really say a lot, right, with a very small amount of words. And so I think, the takeaway.
You don't mind if I use your garbage here, do you? Okay. Cool.
Oh, sorry. I missed that. I'm sorry. But if you throw it in the chat, I will completely respond to that. But yeah. But as a result, branding's become more human, right? So no longer is it really just corporations who own brands, kind of people now own brands. So people really want to know how a brand can kind of make a difference in their lives. So think about brands less now as sort of companies and products, but really movements. So one other thing is, I think branding in the past was relegated to design teams that kind of sat by themselves, kind of off in the marketing department. But branding now really doesn't really require these massive marketing budgets. And that's really kind of what we're going to get into a little bit more today. So think about it more kind of in this accessibility, right? You can now, there are programs where you can go in and create so many things. We'll get into this a little bit later on, but Canva can be used not just for social media, right? But for annual reports, for flyers, for emails, for anything that you can imagine, you can really kind of create now on your own. So as we go through all of these, and I do have some examples where I want to show here, but really what we'd like to encourage you to do is start thinking about either your organization or whatever you're trying to do and use this for is always think kind of through what's the mission, right? What are you trying to do? And how can branding, messaging, design help you achieve those goals? So these are some examples that we've pulled together. Some are recognizable, some might not be. So this Petal, this is a product that actually is a phone case that's not made out of plastic. And so they not only are selling a product, but they're also trying to create a movement, trying to create a plastic-free planet, one case at a time. It's very aspirational, but it also feels very authentic. And a couple things that I just want to point out here that will be important as Lily moves through the design part of Canva is if you see kind of their social media feed in the bottom here, it looks very cohesive, consistent, recognizable. So when you're going through your feed, you know, it's something that would pop out. And that's really what branding is, right? It's this recognizable, this consistent action that you take over and over to communicate with your audience. Charity Water is another example. That's a nonprofit, well-known. And then the one on the, I guess, would that be on your right? It's on my right, is a movement that isn't a brand at all. And that really came out of a reaction. It was during the Women's March, reaction to the 2016 elections. But it's a recognizable symbol that stands for something, but it's not a brand. And so if you think about branding, think about it very kind of expansive. It doesn't just have to be a product or a service. It can also be a movement. So Lily, Anthony, you want me to take this part too, or do you guys also kind of want to jump in here? This is kind of an example, as Anthony alluded to, we all work together to build a brand from scratch. So we are missing some graphics here.
Yeah, wait, where is this one?
Oh, because you downloaded this?
No, I didn't. I'm just sharing this. I just enlarged it to present mode.
Well, we would love to have shown you what, when we all started working for Petal, what the brand looked like.
Let me see. Really
Maybe
quick.
now we'll show you how a little bit of, there we go, Canva. So you can see we really are in Canva for this presentation. So the name and the branding had gone through a lot of different iterations, primarily from the inventors before it really became kind of a formal process that we went through. It went through different names, and you can see the Petal logo there. And then if you want to present again and go to the next slide. What we did when we all came on board was really we actually went to the basics. We talked about what is the mission? What are we trying to do? What is our vision here? We wanted it to feel aspirational, but we also really talked about how in a very saturated market can you stand out? Like, what is the differentiator? What makes us different? And this doesn't, again, only apply to products and services. This is something you can ask for your nonprofit. A lot of nonprofits or a lot of even social companies, they're not competing for dollars per se. I mean, sometimes they are, but it's looking at kind of what does make you different. It's that intentional look at the market. And so this is kind of what we had come up with, and it went through a lot of different iterations. Lily, Anthony, any thoughts there?
Yeah.
I think,
Go ahead. You go ahead.
man, I'm not going to be tired of that happening on these type of calls. Sorry, Lily, I'll be very quick. Yeah, I think one thing to note, and what is unique about our experience with Petal is, the three of us and, our co-founder Christy predominantly as well, are all drawing on different backgrounds, particularly backgrounds that are focused on social impact and cause related marketing. So even though we are talking about a household appliance, we also are, we're working on trying to set the foundation for a brand that also is, has the intent to settle as like or certify as a B Corp and really be a purpose-driven enterprise. So like where we're at right now, we're in the very early stages of that. However, we really were trying to do a lot more than just, get people to place a pre-order for our appliance. So like really thinking about the relationship we're trying to have with people as the priority. So like everything we do, whether it's the color palette or, sort of the fun graphic with, the clothespin on someone's nose, like all of it's right down to like how we respond to someone's comments on social media. Like all of those are elements of the experience, what people think about us and like what we want them to. So like really looking at all those things as different opportunities. Lily, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
You kind of just summed up everything I was going to say, but a little bit better. So good job on that. But yeah, if you, again, it's not really, oh, there we go. If you look at the difference, Anthony and Melissa talked about how the branding changed on a more fundamental level, but when you really look at the design elements, it is a completely different brand. It elicits a completely different feel. This had a more lowbrow, kind of elementary-esque aesthetic to it, and we completely elevated it with changing our brand colors, which went through, I want to say, 3 different iterations. Our font, which I think we changed twice. Our logo, I think that happened. A bunch of different logos. Ending with our graphics, putting it all together. So, with branding, while it is so much more than just colors and logos and fonts and designs, those are the things that people will see, and they have to elicit everything you want them to elicit. And for me, we're going to get into this, but Canva really, really helped me create all these assets and elicit the feel that our brand was trying to accomplish. So without further ado, this is some more examples of our social media page and some of the graphics we created. This was Canva. This was Canva. It's cut off a little. This was Canva, 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 Canva. The majority are Canva. Even some of the ones that look like Photoshop were Canva, actually, which is amazing. Here's an example of some cool graphs and charts that Canva offers. So we really, or I would say, I do feel like an expert on Canva. I have absolutely no background in formal training for graphic design. I have a Photoshop for Dummies book on my bookshelf right now. And as soon as I discovered Canva, I really put that down, and I found that there are so many ways to accomplish super professional, incredible imagery for your brand or for your cause using this platform. So that was my experience. That I have really no formal training. Melissa, yours is a little different. If you want to talk about your background.
Yeah. So, really Canva didn't exist when I started doing a lot of the design and the marketing. But a lot of times too, because I was on the digital side, we didn't have access to the more traditional design teams to create anything. So a lot of times it was really left up to us as a team to just kind of patch together something. And so I did use Photoshop and Illustrator and all of the Adobe tools. And I would say that I'm kind of more than the intermediate on that level. But once I discovered Canva, it just makes everything easy, right? It tells you how to size for which different vehicle or wherever you want to post and whatever you're going to use Canva for. It's a really sort of like quick cheat sheet of all of that. Plus, I love the inspiration that I get from the templates. And so there's a lot of times where in my mind, I know what I want to create and what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to do. And I'll look through the Canva templates to find something that's close. And then I modify it to match the branding and the look and the feel that I'm going for. So it's really, it's an amazing tool. I'm in there all the time.
Pause. So Anthony just dropped a message in the chat. If you do not already have a Canva account, please set up a free account now. We'll give everyone a couple minutes to do that, just because you're going to want to follow along. And then at the end, we have a cool project for you to work on. So let us know if you have any questions or any trouble logging on.
Yeah, and I guess while we wait, if there's any other questions that you want to drop in chat, we'd be happy to talk through that. Will we give you a few minutes to do that? Diana, great question. So yes, well, no, you're not in the same account. You have to have different accounts, but you can collaborate with different accounts on the same file. So I haven't tested it out, but I don't think that you can be logged in the same account at the same time. But Canva does make it really easy. In fact, while we were pulling this presentation together, Lily and I both have the pro account. Anthony, I think you have the free account based on kind of our usage. And we set up a group. And so we all jumped into that group and we were able to share everything kind of within that group. Oh, Anthony, you're on mute.
That was bound to happen. Just for context, one of the advantages of Canva that I found in my experience, and my experience has primarily been, working with teams and individuals who do have like some sort of design acumen, is the ability to, save different templates and colors and really having, different templates that we can all pull from so that you very easily can give people assets so that they can create something. I've worked, my background's in the international NGO space and working a lot with different partners around the world on images. It becomes really tricky to like share resources. So like the different things you can do within Canva, some of which Lily will show in a second, are really invaluable. And I know, again, like not being design or graphically inclined myself, I haven't really been able to, master it as Lily and Melissa have, but, working collectively with folks that do make it pretty easy to access the same type of files and really get what you need from it, when you're working on a different campaign. So I think Lily got booted for a second. And are you back on? You are back on, okay, perfect. Yes,
So what happened?
Dive in?
Yes, give me 1 sec. Put this into present mode. Right. So the first tool I want to discuss is the brand kit. This is my absolute favorite feature on Canva. I did not realize how often I would use it. But as soon as I started working for I was doing projects that were for a company, with a color palette, with fonts, with logos. I realized that this was absolutely vital. So this is what it looks like if you're on Canva's homepage. You are going to go to the left and go to brand kit. You should have an area to upload brand logos, brand colors, and brand fonts. So starting with brand logos, what I did is I went on Google Images and I searched PowerShift Network, and I stole a picture off the internet, which wouldn't recommend usually, but just for this project, we're going to do that because I forgot to ask for assets prior. So if everyone wants to just go to Google Images, PowerShift Network, you'll see the logo. It should have a blue background. I believe it was from Twitter, the one I found. And you're just going to want to save that to your desktop or your computer and then upload it to brand logos. And then once you do that, if everyone could type in or could go on a new template, just a white screen, it can be sized for anything. We're just going to kind of play around in here. maybe do an Instagram post and just have a white screen. And I made a little pre-recorded video that I'm going to talk over and explain what I did with it. So this is a pre-recorded video, and I'm showing you background remover is one of my favorite tools with logos, especially when you don't already have it. Sometimes I like to have that dark blue like you just saw, but it also can be good depending on what you're putting it on to do a remove background. So that's in your effects section. The other section that there is the duotone. Duotone allows you to actually change the colors of your logo, which you can see I'm doing now. And I'm going to replay that because this is going fast. But if you are ever in a situation where you don't have all the assets you need, and honestly, this happens more often than not, even at Petal, I was constantly, this speaks more to my lack of organization, but I was constantly losing our original logo assets. And so sometimes I would have a form of the logo, as you can see here, Petal, and I would need to make it white, or it would have a background behind it that I needed to eliminate. So I would just do that.
This is the original Interstate logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me when it stops at a color you fuck with.
Is someone saying something? Nope. Okay, give me one sec. I'm going to replay the color thing one more time for everyone.
Yeah, and this is really nice too, because a lot of times you'll get logos for organizations that's just been the one tone, but if you're creating something on a dark background, you need to make that kind of reverse. This is really helpful in that regard too.
So exactly. So effects, duotone, you're going to click see all. Click anyone you want if there's a color that speaks to you. But what I'm showing you is your ability to alter it. So you're just going to alter the highlight and the shadow. I usually tend to highlight both to be the same thing. That way you have consistent colors. But if you wanted a black background and a white, you would do what I just did. So that's really, really great, especially as you develop more assets on different color backgrounds, like Melissa said, making sure your logo stands out if you don't already have all color variations of the logo pre-existing. So next, brand colors. So again, if you are working on a project and you're either creating a color palette or there is a brand that already has a color palette, but you don't know the hex codes or the exact Pantones for them, Canva actually offers a tool that's super helpful in finding those. So what you're gonna do is, in your brand kit, everyone should have the logo that we had all uploaded that looks like this. Hopefully you guys have that. And there's actually a feature that says extract color palette. So you can extract it directly from the logo. Another thing I've done before is I've uploaded maybe a screenshot of an Instagram post I liked, or from a website that I was trying to get their brand colors. I've uploaded it here and then I've extracted the color palette. So once you do that, you should have these colors pop up. These are PowerShift Networks colors. And then you are halfway through building your brand kit, which is great. If you are in a situation where you don't have colors, pretend you're starting a new company or a new movement, or you just want to create a cool Instagram post and you don't have a color scheme. One of my favorite websites, I know Melissa shares the sentiment, is Coolers. And like it says here, the super fast color scheme generator. It is so fun. You honestly just click through and it gives you all these pre-made color palettes, and you can really maneuver it and customize it as much as you want until you land on the color palette you want. And once you have that, it will give you the hex codes, which you can then upload into Canva to create your brand color palette. Another amazing tool that I use a lot with Canva is Image LR. And again, if I have a logo or a photo and I want to take those brand colors from it, you can upload the picture directly to here and it will tell you every single hex color in it, which I then put into my brand kit. So these two are both incredible. I'd recommend using them all the time. I'll even sometimes just see another company or just something I follow on Instagram, and I'm like, I love those colors, and I'll just save it and have it in a pre-existing brand kit for later.
And one little note, just Anthony dropped all of those links into the chat, but also with Unsplash, you can put those hex codes actually in the Unsplash search bar, and it'll actually pull up images related to these colors as well. So some cool things you can do. So definitely check out all these links afterwards.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's a good tip. That's great. Brand fonts. So if you think of some of I always do this exercise in my head when I'm trying to be more aware of my surroundings, where I'm like, okay, what does my shampoo bottle look like? And I try to think about it. And if you can't think about it, you should work on that and be more aware. But what we really can kind of think of is the colors, the font, kind of a loose image in our mind. And basically the point of that is that brand colors and brand fonts are really what create brand recognition. So it's super important that whenever you're working with a single organization, a single company, a single platform, that you are being consistent with those fonts and those colors, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also to continuously build brand recognition. So if you're ever in a situation where you do not know what font the company used, so for example, PowerShift, I went on their website, I wanted, my marketing materials to reflect their font and their brand colors. I went on their website and I took these 2 screenshots, the PowerShift Network and join our mailing list. These were just 2 pictures that I found on the website. I put it into a website called Font Squirrel, which I would also highly, highly, highly recommend. It actually picks up the shape of every single figure and glyph, I believe is the word, within the font. And then it yields a couple results for you, some of which are free and some of which you pay for, of what fonts are used here. So in this case, Montserrat Bold, that's one that Canva carries. That's a font that Canva carries. So when I went back to my brand guide or my brand kit, I went to brand fonts and I typed in, it's not listed here, but Montserrat Bold. And I made that the primary font for PowerShift Network brand kit. And then sometimes you'll see there are sub fonts. So there's like your paragraph font, your sub paragraph font, your sub paragraph font. So I looked on other places on the website and found that some of the writing was also in a different font. I don't have the full screenshot here, but these ones weren't on Canva, but there was one that matched up with something that Canva carried as well. So that's a really cool thing to do. Worst comes to worst, you can always just eyeball it and look for something that looks similar to what you're trying to replicate or create. But I would really recommend this guy. Okay, tips and tricks. These are my absolute favorite kind of Canva hacks, if you will. I compiled a little list for you guys. Number 1, taking advantage of the search feature. So a lot of times when you go to create a post or a flyer or a presentation, and you look at the Canva homepage, you'll see it will say Instagram post, Facebook banner, presentation, flyer. And those speak more to the platform or the project you are trying to create and less to the theme or subject matter. So what I like to do a lot is say I want to create a really cool quotable. Say that Petal just got an amazing review in an article, and I want to create an awesome Instagram post that features that quote. Instead of just going to Canva and clicking Instagram post, I would instead go and type in keywords that relate to a text-heavy graphic. So for example, a lot of times I'll type in quote, review, inspirational, and you'll see it will give you more suggestions as you start to type these in. And as you can see, all 3 of these would work for what I'm trying to do. They're text heavy or text focused visuals, but with the different words, they all yielded slightly different results. So it's important to kind of play around Another example is for specific themed projects. Example, if you're talking about climate change, typing in Earth Day template, climate template, weather template, they're all going to yield different results that really could all work for what you're trying to do. So just get kind of crafty with your searches. I've found like the perfect Instagram post I needed by taking a elementary child education presentation and resizing it. You never know what's going to work for what. So just get super crafty with the search feature. That is how I get all my templates always. Frame feature. This keeps your images super streamlined and well formatted whenever you are creating a visual. And all it is just going into elements and typing in frame. And then say you click on the circle, it will then create a standing picture frame where you can drag in photos into it, and that photo will be cropped in the shape of the circle, which seems pretty basic, but depending on what you're trying to create, it just makes it look so much more organized and aesthetically pleasing and just clean overall. And you can get super fun with circle graphics and with, you know, this fake film graphic and triangles. And it's great for grids if you're trying to show a bunch of different things lined up side by side. Further down, it's cut off, but further down, they'll have multiple frames side by side that you can insert different photos in. So I use this all the time. And here's an example of a frame they offer, which looks like a phone mock-up, which is such a cool idea for an Instagram post, for a flyer, for a presentation, anything. So I love this guy. I use it all the time. Here's some of the other really cool frames they offer. Putting pictures into letters could be super fun. Obviously, this one I didn't crop correctly. It doesn't look as good as I would like. These are great when you're doing infographics or if you are doing diagrams or showing processes. This is a great one. Yeah, so you can really have a lot of fun with these. And it helps you to better just shape your images, yeah, in a way that fits your template. My other hack is mock-up photos. So a lot of times, I think when we're trying to create visuals, we go to the template section. There are template-esque features within the photo section. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. If you go to photos on the left and you type in mock-up, you'll actually see these really cool images that just have blank screens or picture frames, or you'll see all the examples that I then love to put photos into. So here's an example of one I got. And it was blank. And I was like, well, what if I was trying to create something that shows a new app that PowerShift created for the iPad? I would drag in the logo here. And, you know, just it conveys a super cool image. It brings your ideas to life. If you are creating an app, if you are creating a flyer, you can actually just use this for yourself to kind of check how it will look in real life. It's a true mock-up, which is amazing. So these I cannot recommend enough. I use these all the time for really cool, compelling visuals. And again, just to kind of check my own ideas and see what they'll look like once brought to life. So next is the cropping tool, which seems super obvious. I use it probably more than anything to create lettering, imagery, shapes, anything really to fit into the confines of what I need. I really doctor a lot of Canva's assets using the cropping tool. And I'm going to show you guys an example of that. So with this, we had this blank visual. You can see I put in the PowerShift logo and I'm expanding it to fit into the iPad. But we run into an issue because the dimensions of it don't actually fit in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that, which you'll see in one sec. There you go. I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to crop so that we have that same matching blue that I can then expand to perfectly fit inside of there. So it's little things like this that you can get really creative with. And with Canva, I'm always learning. There's actually a lot more tools than you think. So I'm sure in a week, I'll find a much better tool than this. And I'll be like, I can't believe I was using the cropping tool to do this, but it's great for now. And I use it all the time. And I kind of rush this. So there's a little bit of white on the sides, but you guys get the idea. Another thing, an alternative to the cropping tool is you could go to your elements and your shapes, find a shape you need, doctor it a little. I doctored my square to be more of a rectangle. We'll see, 1 sec. And then if you scroll down, Canva picks up on colors within your photo. So it actually saw, oh, there's a yellow in that logo. Do you want to use this exact yellow here? So there we go. In this case, it didn't pick up on the blue because sometimes I don't know what happens with Canva's system, but it won't always pick up on every single color within the photo. So if you didn't have your brand kit already and you needed that blue, you would do, use the tools I showed you earlier, but, or you could use the cropping tool. But if you were just wanted to do a cool, that yellow from the logo or a cool highlight of something, using I'm going to go right back to it really quick. Using you double click on it. You're going to click on the color itself, scroll down, photo colors, see all. There you go. That's a super useful tool. I use it a lot. And it actually picks up, in this case, this is a presentation, it picks up on all the colors throughout every photo in the entire presentation, which is great. Because earlier I had some of our brand Petal's colors. And if I wanted to include that on this slide, I would be able to by just going to by going to photo colors, seeing a slide previously that had Petal's colors, and then incorporating that here. So that's a great one. So next I want to talk about elevating templates. I don't know if anyone else has had this happen to them, but so many times I'll be scrolling on Instagram. You guys tell, I spend a lot of time on Instagram, but I'll be scrolling on Instagram and I will see 2 brands I follow who so obviously created content directly from Canva with very little altering of the template. And I mean, I've seen really well-known brands do this where I'm like, I was on that Canva template yesterday. Like, I can't even imagine how much their graphic designer is getting paid for doing close to nothing. But it's really wild when you see 2 of the exact same templates from different brands. So aside from that being just kind of embarrassing, it's not creative content. It's not original. You're not really going to engage with it. You've seen it before. It's not going to stand out. So while Canva's incredible for these templates, what you really want to do is elevate them and view them more as a starting point and less as the end result. So I'm going to show you guys some examples of Petal content we have created in the past where I started from a template and what it got to. So here's an example of one. I wanted a quotable. We were featured in Trend Hunter, and we wanted to post this on LinkedIn and Facebook, I believe. So I took this image, which was a template. I switched around our quotation mark using a search in elements, the element section. I changed the font to be a Petal font, which is DIN alternative. I changed the color of the font to better match ours, changed the color of the quotation to better match ours. I flipped around how much space was devoted to the image versus the quote. I expanded this white block here to fill the top and the bottom. And yeah, overall, I added this frame. Instead of just the solid pink they had here, I added 2 more layers to give it some dimension, to incorporate some brand colors. And yeah, it really does elevate it. You can see the similarities, but you can also see where I, progressed from it. So that's an example. Another one is this one. I found this, did you know about oranges and whatever there is to know about oranges. And I looked at it and I said, okay, Petal doesn't really use a lot of circles in our graphics. We use this rounded rectangle or this rounded square. That's something you'll see a lot on our website and on our Instagram. So first thing is I went into elements and I changed this. Then, of course, I made all the fonts, our fonts. I made all the text, our colors. And then I changed this background. So this background, what's cool is I actually kind of created my own background. This is just one image with the oranges, but with the fruit flies, I picked a light gray color to be the background. And then I went into photos and picked 2 individual photos of these fruit flies, moved them to the back, and yeah, created what looks like a pre-existing photo of 2 fruit flies, but really it was kind of a lot of doctoring in the background. And so again, you can see the similarities, you can totally see the starting point. I can't claim complete originality, but it still is elevated and it's a different version from where it started. Next, this was a super cool kind of infographic I saw during COVID, which we're very much still in. And I just liked the aesthetic of it. It was fun but informative. And we use a lot of emojis within Petal branding, whether it's in customer responses or even on our website, we have some. So it was super up our alley. So what I did here is I expanded it so that it better filled this negative space. I changed this to our font and our colors. I added our logo to continuously build that brand recognition. I kept one of their emojis, but I switched out one that made more sense for us. Changed the background color. It's just these little tweaks that create an entirely new image, but still, you know, capture the essence of what originally drew you to the template. This is a last example. We created this visual for LinkedIn to kind of tell everyone what Petal was about and what we cared about, which is sustainability, community engagement, and all of that. So I took this, which again, this is really the power of the search feature. These have nothing to do with each other. And in reality, this never needed to be a web. You know, I could have just said things Petal cares about, you know, sustainability, community engagement, but it's thinking creatively and searching for inspo on those templates that you can search. So I thought a web would be cool or a diagram would be cool. And I typed in web or diagram, one of those, or chart. This came up and I just totally doctored it to, you know, better fit our brand. Again, you see the rounded square instead of the circle. You see our font, you see our boldness, our colors, etc. So next, we want you guys to create a really cool, engaging Instagram post based on some of the stuff I just explained and some of your background knowledge. And what we want it to be, I did an example in the next slide. I'll show you guys. Don't judge my example. It was slightly rushed. It's not my best work, but it's fine. So I took a template. I typed in quote for this one, or maybe I typed in inspirational. I typed in one of those and I found this, which I thought was really cool. And I then doctored it to create this. And basically what everyone's gonna do is they are going to make an Instagram post that includes the PowerShift logo and the PowerShift colors and fonts, which we have in our brand kit that we built together. And it's going to include a quote or in some way, something that explains what you learned from today's lesson. So there are so many typos in this, please excuse me. But I said, my favorite part of Petal's Canva tutorial was learning about the mockup feature option. I'm super excited to use this for social media posts and to help myself visualize larger ideas and concept, that's good spelling, Lily, in a more concrete way. So this is my example. That sounds really cheesy and lame, but you guys will do a better job. And yeah, in addition to having these deliverables, which I'll leave up on the screen for you guys, using relevant imagery, PowerShift branding, mentioning something you learned, mentioning Petal. We're going to provide you guys with the Petal logo as well. You don't need to use it, but you are going to mention Petal or the name of this lesson, which was building a brand for your movement. And in addition to meeting those deliverables, how can you have fun in Canva and, you know, use these templates and elevate them to create something on brand, but also super original that you're proud of and that's fun to make. So with that said, I'm going to keep up these deliverables and everyone is going to create this Instagram post. I want to show everyone one feature just in case they don't already know. And that is the, okay, so this is the home page when you go on. Everyone can just click Instagram post, but say they clicked presentation and they fell in love with the template that you found in presentation. There's a little feature called the resize feature. You don't know it, I'm going to show you super quick how it works, just so that at the end of this, you're able to resize it for an Instagram post, regardless of how it starts out. Of course, my computer decides to be a little slow right now. Bear with me. Okay, make gratitude a habit. Pretend, for whatever reason, I loved this. But this is sized for a presentation. You're going to click resize in the upper left. You're going to scroll down, or you can search and Instagram post. Copy and resize, or you can just resize on the spot. Copy and resize will open up a new tab. I'm just going to resize on the spot. There you go. I recommend doing that before you lay out all your assets because sometimes it resizes a little funky. So I'd recommend doing that first. And then, you know, you can make it more proportional by expanding it and whatnot. So with that said, everyone get started. About 15 minutes, create an Instagram post that you are proud of that talks about what you learned today or, you know, what tool you're excited to use. Mentioning Petal and PowerShift. Again, we're going to include the Petal logo in the chat. Anthony, are you able to add that? Or I can do it if not, or Melissa. And yeah, if you want to type in the chat any questions you have along the way or unmute yourself and ask out loud, we are here to answer them. And I wish we had fun music to play in the background. We do not. So everyone can just sit in silence and let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, and as you have questions, please just put them in the chat. If you want to use the raise hand function, you can do that as well. Our hope is in the next 13 minutes to have one or two people's questions actually to perhaps share your screen and then also like use it as a use case. So not just answer it in the chat, but actually like talk through it as an example. So feel free to get to it. And we'll continue to monitor the chat for questions. I'm going to go work on my image myself, but I know Lily and Melissa will also be looking closely at the chat as well.
And I'm going to go back to the rubric. I love that term. Someone asked, Diana asked, how do you give credit to the elements when you're using an emoji or shape on your flyer or anything that you are creating?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there is, Canva will tell you what the copyright sort of rules are with some of the images, but a lot of these are.
Oh, she's frozen.
Looks like she's frozen for me too.
Yeah, Melissa, you're a little frozen.
Hey, we made almost 65 minutes without getting frozen, so that's not bad.
Oh, I apologize. Resize may in fact be a pro feature. But like Danny said, you can just copy and paste into a new dimension, or just start from the beginning with Instagram posts from templates, or yes, you can copy and paste completely and then just expand and move it to be more proportional. Oops. Sorry, guys. And I will drop in the Petal logo for you guys. And I'm going to drop in a white logo. And again, you guys will have the ability to alter the color if you want. Yes, and like Anthony said, we want to have PowerShift Network share kind of a compilation of these graphics on its Instagram. So make sure you're proud of it, but no pressure. Give me 1 sec, I'm dropping it in for you guys. It's just taking a second to load on my end. Melissa or Anthony, are either of you able to put in a Petal logo? I think because I'm sharing my screen, the loading is not.
Yeah, let me give that a shot.
What do you do to narrow down your template search? None of these are particularly exciting to me. That's a really good question. So a lot of times I think about what I want from it. Is it a visual heavy graphic? Is it a text heavy graphic? Do I want a photo to be, included? Do I want certain colors within it? I'm almost positive. Let me check super quick. I'm going to go off the rubric for 1 second. I believe that when you are searching templates, if you click here on the right, if you want, this is a little tricky because realistically, you're probably going to change your colors, but if you want templates with certain colors in them, like heavy, you can do that and it will offer you some. Of course, my computer is being super, super slow. But it's hard. I mean, I honestly think the hardest part of Canva is picking your template to start from. I've spent ridiculous amounts of time picking one, but I always end up altering it so much that it doesn't even matter. You really just have to be able to look beyond what you see on your screen. Sometimes, honestly, the templates I pick are the ones that I think are the ugliest, but I just know that they'll be easy to doctor. But yeah, I guess my best tip would be just to start off with first deciding, is this a text heavy graphic? Is this an infographic? Is this a something that should be conveyed with a chart? Is this something that should be conveyed with, illustrations? Is this something where I'm trying to explain something super simple and maybe going into the child nursery, classroom presentation that's not a phrase, but going into that might, yield some great results. So really try to think about what the purpose of this visual is and where it's being housed, and get creative with your searches. But in short, it's really hard to pick one, and it takes me a long time usually. And 15 minutes to find one, it's not a lot of time. So you guys are doing great.
So I'm failing to be able to upload anything to Zoom here for a logo.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not letting me either. Let me see.
Are you trying to add a link or actually upload a file?
Upload a file, yeah. I need to get a link for you.
Yeah, I think if we drop it in like a Google Drive and then.
Okay, let me do that quick.
Can you edit photos with Canva the way you can with a photo editing app? Contrast, exposure, highlights, filters, etc. Yes. Let me double check that this is a free feature. But yes, what you would do is you would take an image. Let's take this image. You would click filter. You could either pick one of these, or what I tend to do is I would pick adjust, and I'll just kind of play around with tint, blur, X process, brightness, contrast, all that. Something else I just want to show everyone. Oh, I've just found it difficult to make designs conducive to being text heavy, but where I work, I don't have a lot of actual photos to work with, and I'm just left making designs that feel forced. Yes. Okay, so this is a great point, actually. So Zachary, correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is that do you often find that the stuff you have to do need to be text heavy, or is that not the issue?
Do you mind if I unmute to respond, or do you want me to just text back?
Either one.
Oh, okay. I mean, they don't always need to be text heavy. I guess I do, like, I don't know, one of the things I do is I'm like the marketing director for this satire magazine at our university.
Awesome.
But one that makes it really hard to build sort of a like distill a singular brand, because I'm not the artist. So like we always have different arts and different colors with different layouts. And so I like kind of have to use those
Totally.
what I'm given. And then just because of the situation we're in, like I like cannot get a lot of photos, and that sort of media isn't super conducive to getting photos anyway. And especially we have great artists, but it just leaves me kind of like having to force every picture to have a lot of text.
Totally. So when you, since everyone's kind of different, if an illustrator creates something, do you then have images of their illustrations, or is it like not? I'm trying to think how you could pull assets from that, whether it's the colors or the shapes.
Oh, they'll give me like the assets and everything. Like I can upload those. But then what makes it especially difficult is like I was looking at y'all's Instagram, and it's very like the layout is very consistent, even if the exact format of post isn't, between colors and everything. And so I guess the follow-up question would be like, is less related to this current project that you're having us do, but more so in creating like a consistent layout for social media, especially Instagram, where it's all right next to each other.
Totally. So something we did with our Instagram in specific, actually with Petals, is we created a kind of like a Bible of different formats that we would use sprinkled throughout social. So if you look, we had one called our Q&A format that would look like this. And we would use it repeatedly at different points throughout social. So you'll see some of the same formats that kind of pop up. We did something called, Canva offers this really cool template. I believe it's called Search Engine, but it looks like a Google search. You'll see a lot of brands are using that now. And whenever we wanted to introduce a topic, we would say, oh, this could be a really cool topic to use our search engine template. So if you can establish templates that are conducive enough to take different amounts of text and colors and everything, and then sprinkle those throughout your feed at different times, then it creates consistency without being too repetitive. You never want two of the same templates on top of each other. But yeah, we decided ahead of time. You'll also see we have some pictures that have a lot of white space around them. Or we'll have ones with bold backgrounds. We called those our hero shots. And we basically just created a library of different templates that we would consistently toggle between. I'm trying to think what other tips I have.
Yeah, another thing too we would do, especially for Instagram, is lay out what like 6 next to each other might look like. So when we could get to that point where we were very like, where we could plan ahead, we would lay them out next to each other to really see if like everything looked cohesive and kind of good next to each other. Because I mean, if you sprinkle in some images, I know you're saying that you can't do a lot of images, but sometimes text will look better next to something that's very light or less text, right? Kind of, and you can play with that balance. Kind of within Canva too, you could create like a presentation and see how they would all lay out together.
Hey all, I just wanted to note that we are over time. For anyone who wishes to stick around, please do. I'm sorry, Melissa and Lily, I'm just gonna assume that you also have more time too. But we're happy to answer any questions. But as I noted in the chat earlier, we're gonna coordinate with Danny and the team at PowerShift to make sure we do a roundup of a lot of the resources we discussed. A lot of this is super quick and Lily makes it seem really easy. But we will put those together for you. There will be a follow-up email. I believe it's going to have a recording as well. And yeah, we'd be happy to, extend our networks, our advice. We'll have, personal information for the 3 of us too. So if we can be helpful to any of you in any way, we'd encourage you to take us up on that. But again, like if you wish to stick around a little bit longer, please feel free to, and we can work through different questions. I know I'm working on my graphics still, so I have a few questions. Yeah, thank you all. We really appreciate you taking time out of your year and your day to spend it with us. So thank you. Appreciate all that you do, and hope you have a great night and great rest of your week.
Oh yeah, so either email works. That we just posted in the chat. You can send it to either. And like Anthony said, we are going to send out an email with our personal contact information. So any questions you have kind of unrelated to this, but just with Canva in general, like Zachary, what you were asking about with the satire, if you want to send me any of that and just kind of show me an example of what that looks like, I'm happy to totally help you with that and give my opinion. I think seeing it visually will help for sure. But just any.
Yeah, I just don't want to take over like the.
No, you're fine.
Here.
You're completely fine. Yeah, you can. We'll send out an email, then you can shoot me an email. My email will be listed in that email.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm on that.
Anyone else? Any questions? Anything with Canva? I also would highly recommend to anyone if you are working with an organization, if you're working with a company, if you're working with just a group of friends, I think Canva Pro, I believe it's $10 a month. Is that correct?
Yeah.
10 yeah, it is beyond worth it. You can ask your organization to pay for it if they have it within the budget. If you and your friends want to get it, you can actually share it with up to 4 people, 5 people. It is amazing. It really, really is amazing. And someone said Danny said it is free for 501c3s. I don't know what that means, but.
It's a type of nonprofit.
Oh, amazing.
You can apply and file, like upload your IRS documentation, and they'll give you a free subscription. So folks who are getting paid by PSN as like regional recruitment coordinators or pod organizers can have access to our account. You can just email me and I can send you an invite.
Definitely do that, everyone. It's amazing. It truly, I've created full animated videos with it. I mean, it truly expands the capabilities of Canva. And something else to note that I recently discovered is Canva is now affiliated with a printer, I believe. So if you are ever creating a flyer or a business card within here, there's an option to actually export it to their printer and get your business cards, your flyers, your stickers made directly through Canva, which is amazing. I'm yet to try that. That seems super helpful, especially if you need concrete marketing materials. Any questions? I'll just show you guys some of my favorite features I discovered this week.
Melissa, for the folks who are still on, what do you think about making that note you shared about how you save images so that when you export them, they don't look blurry? Would that be perhaps after Lily's example worth sharing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can show it.
That's
Just
a good tip. Yes.
it'll be easier on here. Yeah. So, if you have, say this, if I wanted to send it over to someone, if I wanted to get it printed, anything.
Even with social media, I've actually found a lot of times I'll upload a graphic that looks great in Canva to Instagram or LinkedIn and it looks blurry, especially for the text heavy ones, because text can look very pixelated when saved down. So this has been a huge game changer for me on this.
Yeah. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your page. You're going to click this download guy. File type, always do PNG, high quality image. And this is the size that it is as of now. Presentation templates typically 1920 by 1080. What you're going to do is you're going to up your size as much as you possibly can. This is just going to give you the most crisp, clean, more pixels within the image. Definitely do that always. Sometimes you might have to compress it if you're sending it over to someone and the file share is tricky. They offer that with compressed file. And then another thing I love is if I wanted to send this over to someone and I knew they were putting it on a presentation or on a colored backdrop, I could go to PNG, transparent background. That will get rid of all this white. This will just all be transparent except for the text and this red rectangle. That's amazing, especially when you're creating logos or icons.
Another thing too that I didn't realize at first is in that same dropdown is you can save out just a single page. So what I've done in the past for social media is I do create those templates that Lily was talking about. So one for like Q&As or all sorts of different templates I'll have in one properly sized like Instagram file. And then when I create new things or I change it, I duplicate the page and then I just download that one image. So it's a way of kind of saving things, organizing your posts, and then being able to kind of quickly reuse them again and again.
Yes. still on, but I'm just gonna keep showing you guys some fun things. I have been loving with text, going to effects. They just updated and added new ones actually. I've been using a lot of the curve, super fun. You can give it a neon effect. Glitch it a little, that's cool.
Yeah, and then for anyone who's used like, you know, Photoshop or anything with fonts, it also allows you to select a font and then change kind of the spacing between either the letters or the words and lines. So it's not to the level of what you can do in Photoshop, but this at least gives you a little bit of flexibility, especially for headers, which sometimes looks better with the spacing between the letters. And it changes a font quite significantly too.
It really does.
Yeah, I agree, Zachary.
I think so too.
Any other questions? Anyone on here that you'd like to see, or you'd like to see us kind of pull in? There's just so much stuff here. Or anyone hitting any issues while trying, wondering how to add layers.
Let me show ya. Okay, so do images so they don't seem flat. Something I like to do. You know what? I'm going to go back to this, my example. Oh wait, I can't do that. Ignore that. Okay. So I would go to photos. Cool. And let's say we are using trending, this photo.
Yeah, and the reason that a lot of images will seem a lot similar on Instagram and stuff, because they do trend, right? And so it's if you're not using the search feature, you're going to see a lot of the same templates and images that everyone else has seen.
Totally. Totally. Okay. So a lot of times what I try to do is I will either find frames that are either like real looking frames or the frames in Elements. And some of them have really cool shadow behind it, or they'll have an outline, which honestly does more than you would think. So I'll take this, I'll add this guy, get rid of this. That was a bad example. Use this one. Photos. And then I'll usually do these, or I'll try to do something a little more fun where I'll take this and then I'll go to Elements and maybe grab a square. Take this. Right now it is on top of it. I'm going to go to Position, backward. There we go. And I'll just do like fun little hints like that, or all around it. And then something else I do, which actually weirdly kind of unflattens it, is I'll take an image like this and I will remove the background. I use the background remover quite a lot. Remove the background. There we go. And to me, that actually makes it look like it has a lot more dimension and like it's kind of coming out on top of the screen. And especially when you then lay that on top of, you know, your other assets. So let's move this guy backward. I think that's kind of cool. So I use that a lot. I really use the background remover quite often. And also depending on how much kind of leeway you have, it's fun to play around with these super cool effects. I don't have that one, just kidding. But the glitches or the splicing, I've done super cool graphics with the splicing actually. And I mean, obviously this doesn't work for this image in particular, but it just adds really cool dimension and personality to your images. It will load. Doesn't work for this, of course, but I've done it with, I had a picture of food once and I spliced it. It looked super cool. It created a really dynamic, beautiful image. So I definitely recommend that. Another little trick. Something else, if you're ever creating Instagram content for a story, what I tend to do a lot is this. I'll put my photo, I'll put my text, pretend any of this makes sense. It does not, but you're then going to click outside of the canvas. So you're going to click here, and you're going to go to animate. Click that. You can make it last longer or shorter. And again, this is a premium feature, I believe. And then when you save it, you're going to save it as an MP4 video. When you post that to Instagram or to your content or to your story, it makes for really cool, fun, interactive content. I try to animate as much as I can. Canva Pro also offers animated elements. So if you type in pizza, and then you click this, animated, apply filters. These are actually animated graphics, which then you can either make a little, save it as a GIF or a video. And again, it just adds to your content, especially on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm seeing a lot of animated content these days. So if you can't tell, I'm a huge proponent for the Canva Pro. It is a real game changer. Another thing I like to play around with a lot is, actually I use it probably the most, is transparency. I'll do a lot of cool things with transparency, especially when I have shapes overlapping or I have text on top of shapes or on top of photos. It just helps to balance out your composition a lot more and bring focus to whatever you need to focus. Any other questions? Anything whatsoever? You can also, when you're searching for photos, I like to use this a lot. Go to the filter section and pick the orientation you need. Back to the iPad photo I was creating, or the iPad mock-up. In that case, any photo I was putting there, realistically, I needed a rectangular portrait shape as opposed to a landscape. Otherwise, I don't know where it went. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit in there. So it's good to, from the beginning, make sure you're searching for things that work with your image. Yes, Zachary, 100%. So the template that already exists is a square. If you, for whatever reason, aren't resizing it or you're not using that template, Zachary's completely right. It's gonna look, things will either get cropped out or it will just look too condensed. The best content is one that perfectly fits Instagram square dimensions, 100%. And also, if you're ever creating content for link, Hi. If you're ever creating content for LinkedIn or a couple different social media platforms, make sure to look up their image sizing guidelines, because sometimes it will say, for this image, it needs to be 600 by 600. And then it will have a note, if you look closely, that says, be careful, 200 of those pixels on every side will be cut off. So you actually have to create imagery, a frame within a frame. Anthony just posted an amazing article for Sprout Social. It gives you insights on different social media image size guides. They change all the time. So I would recommend honestly bookmarking this link. It's amazing, and it just lets you know all the sizing you need if you're ever uploading something to Twitter, LinkedIn especially. I can't emphasize enough how weird their sizing is. Yeah, very important. Here's a good example actually of like some of the cool stuff you can. Yeah, Zachary, 100%. Send us an email, and I'm so happy to help with anything, or just, you know, share tips, feedback, all that, for sure. I live on Canva, I really do. Yeah. Okay, you can do here. Put it in.
Okay, so I know sounds like a few of us are still working, but I did want to just let you all know that we do have to cut it short. Well, I guess we're not cutting short either, but we do have to call it call time here. So just wanted to note that we are all super thankful for you all joining us. As Lily's noted, you know, we're happy to help, and we will coordinate with Danny and company to get all these resources into like one spot, so that you're not scrambling to try to remember everything. You know, there was a lot of info shared. So thank you again. We're all really, you know, inspired by the collective work that you're all doing. And we really hope today is, you know, one way we can get involved with the network, and we're going to hope to continue that involvement. So please reach out to us. And, you know, again, we'll have some more info coming to you all, including recording. So thanks again. Have a good evening, and I hope you all stay healthy and well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.